The cabin stood alone in the tall trees, or so I thought. It was a place where you could just lose yourself in the serenity of nature, far from the chaos of everyday life. Miles from town, it was the perfect getaway. The air here was crisp and clean, untouched by city pollution. It was a haven for anyone seeking peace and solitude, a place to escape the noise, the traffic, the blaring sirens, and the endless chatter of people. The demands, the pressures of work, the expectations of society, and the weight of responsibilities. It was a place to leave behind the stress and find peace. The forest had a way of making you feel small, yet significant, a part of something much larger, especially the memories of her, Lisa, my ex-girlfriend. Our time together had been filled with moments of joy and sorrow, laughter and tears. We had shared dreams and built a life together, only to watch it crumble before our eyes. Our relationship had been a crazy storm, a whirlwind of emotions that left us both battered and bruised. We had loved fiercely, but our love was like a storm, unpredictable and destructive. We fought as intensely as we loved, and each argument left us exhausted. Yet there were moments of calm, moments where we believed we could get through anything together. It ended badly, as these things often do. The final argument was the most violent, a clash of words and emotions that left us both shattered. We parted ways, each carrying the scars of our love. She hadn't taken it well. The breakup had left her devastated, and her pain quickly turned to anger. She couldn't let go, couldn't move on. Her love had turned into an obsession. The stalking had started subtly. At first, it was just a feeling, a sense that I was being watched. I would catch glimpses of a figure in the distance. Then came the phone calls at odd hours. The phone would ring in the dead of night. I'd answer, only to hear silence on the other end. It was unnerving, a constant reminder that she was still there, still watching. Then, unexplained appearances near my work. I'd see her lurking in the shadows, always just out of sight. It was as if she was haunting me, a ghost from my past that I couldn't escape. But one night, things felt different. Things were about to take a terrifying turn. I could feel it in the air, a sense of impending doom that sent chills down my spine. The forest, once a peaceful place, had become a place of fear. As I stood there, alone in the darkness, I knew that this night would change everything. The night was quiet, too quiet. The only sounds were the chirping of crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. I was reading, trying to relax, trying to forget. Suddenly a sound cut through the stillness. Tires on gravel, a car door slamming shut. My heart pounded in my chest. A cold dread washed over me. I knew that sound, I knew that car. It was Lisa, and she was here. I rushed to the window. My blood ran cold. The night was eerily silent. The moon cast an ominous glow over the neighborhood, making everything look ghostly and surreal. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, each beat echoing in my ears like a drum. The air was thick with tension, and I knew something terrible was about to happen. Lisa stood there with the headlights silhouetting her figure. The beams cut through the darkness, casting long, menacing shadows. Her posture was rigid, and her eyes were fixed on the house with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. It was as if she was possessed by some evil force. Her face was contorted in a mask of rage. Every muscle in her face was taut, her eyes wild and unblinking. It was a look I had never seen before, a look that spoke of unbridled fury and a thirst for vengeance. It was a face that promised retribution, a face that would haunt my nightmares for years to come. She was screaming my name. It was a sound that pierced through the silence, a sound that made my blood run cold. I could hear the pain and anger in her voice, a voice that had once been filled with love and tenderness. Now, it was filled with nothing but hatred and rage.
She was screaming, "John! John!" Her voice was desperate. It was a cry that demanded attention, a cry that could not be ignored. Each shout was like a dagger to my heart, a painful reminder of the love that had turned to hate.
Her voice, usually so sweet, was now a hateful growl. It was as if she had been transformed into a wild animal, driven by instinct and raw emotion. Her eyes were wide-filled with a madness that was both terrifying and heartbreaking. I could see the torment in her eyes, the inner demons that had taken control. I felt a surge of adrenaline, fight or flight. My mind was racing, trying to process what was happening. Every instinct told me to run, to get as far away from her as possible. My legs felt like lead, rooted to the spot by a mix of fear and disbelief. I knew I had to make a decision, and I had to make it fast. However, there was nowhere to go. She was already smashing her way through the front door. The sound of wood splintering filled the air. I could see the door buckling under the force of her attacks, the hinges straining to hold on. It was only a matter of time before she broke through, and I knew that when she did, there would be no stopping her. Her weapon of choice? A claw hammer. The sight of it sent a fresh wave of terror through me. It was a tool meant for building, now turned into an instrument of destruction. The metal gleamed in the moonlight. I could see her gripping it tightly, her knuckles white with the force of her grip. There was no reasoning with her, no pleading for mercy. This was a fury unleashed, and there was no turning back. I knew I had to get out. Lisa was in a blind rage. She was capable of anything. I looked around frantically for an escape route. The back door.
What do we do?
My friend Mark was frozen in fear. I grabbed his arm and pulled him towards the back. We scrambled out into the night. The darkness swallowed us whole. We ran until we couldn't run anymore. Our lungs burned, our legs screamed for mercy. We had to get help.
We found a payphone at a deserted gas station. I made the call. My voice trembled as I spoke.
The police arrived quickly. Sirens wailed in the distance. The red and blue lights painted the night sky. They took our statements, listened to our story. But there was a problem. No witnesses, no proof. They wanted me to press charges, to put Lisa away. But I hesitated. I knew what that would mean. A trial, public humiliation. And what if it didn't stick? What if she came back for me? The fear was paralyzing. So, against my better judgment, I stayed silent. I told the police it was a misunderstanding, a lover's quarrel. They didn't believe me, but they couldn't force me. That night changed me. The fear became a constant companion. Looking over my shoulder became second nature. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't function. The image of Lisa's face, twisted in rage, haunted my waking hours. My sanctuary had become my prison. The peace I craved was gone, replaced by a gnawing anxiety. I moved, of course. Started over in a new city, tried to rebuild my life, but the past had a way of clinging on. The fear lingered, the nightmares persisted. I couldn't escape the memory of that night. The screech of tires, the shattering glass, the look in Lisa's eyes. It was a constant reminder of my own vulnerability. Years passed. The fear subsided but never truly disappeared. The memories faded but never completely vanished. I learned to live with the scars, both physical and emotional. I found solace in therapy, in sharing my story, in helping others who had faced similar horrors. And slowly, gradually, I began to heal. Looking back, I realize I made mistakes. Mistakes that have left indelible marks on my soul, shaping who I am today. Each misstep, each moment of hesitation has taught me something invaluable, even if the lessons came at a high cost. I stayed silent when I should have spoken out. There were times when my voice could have made a difference, could have changed the course of events, but I chose to remain quiet. The weight of those unspoken words still lingers, a constant reminder of the power of our voices and the consequences of our silence. I let fear dictate my actions. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of the unknown. It paralyzed me, held me back from seizing opportunities and living life to the fullest. The grip of fear is strong, but breaking free from it is even stronger. But I also learned valuable lessons. Lessons that have become the foundation of my growth. Each experience, whether good or bad, has been a teacher, guiding me towards a better understanding of myself and the world around me. Lisa's story didn't end well. She was a bright light in my life, someone who brought joy and laughter, but also pain and heartache. Our paths diverged, and I often wondered what became of her. I found out years later that she had died in a car accident. The news hit me like a tidal wave, a mix of shock and sorrow. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictability of fate. A part of me felt sadness, another part relief. Sadness for the loss of a life that once intertwined with mine, relief that her suffering had ended. It was a complex web of emotions, difficult to untangle and make sense of. But mostly, I felt a profound sense of loss. Loss for the moments we shared, the dreams we had, and the future that would never be. It was a void that could never be filled, a scar that would always remain, for her and for the life we could have had. The memories of our time together are bittersweet, a blend of happiness and sorrow. They serve as a reminder of the impermanence of life and the importance of cherishing every moment.